We'll wait till it's clear. Okay. Today's guest is the amazing Keith Dennison. Keith was 40 years young when he moved to Costa Rica with his wife and 2 young children in 2010 for 20 months. I think we're all interested to know how they decided to make the big move and the logistics of it all being adults with kids.
Right.
Yes, we are about to find out. Keith, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Thanks, Miss Natasha.
Great. So I want to get started with, how did you even come up with the idea? Where did it all come from?
So Felicia and I met in 2000, and we got married in 2002, and we really decided that we would have a smaller wedding and a bigger honeymoon. So we only had like 100 guests at our wedding, and we spent 3 weeks in Costa Rica, just touring around to all the ecosystems. We spent 5 days here, 6 days there, 4 days there, and just kind of like really got to know the culture and the country and totally fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm. Pura vida, baby.
Pura vida. So from there, it just kind of was like a dream. I'm like, so this was 2002. And I'd just been pestering Felice over the course of the next 8 years. We'd gone back in 2006 for a VIP fly-in by event. We almost bought some dirt in Costa Rica. And then, just kind of went into, how are we going to make this happen from my perspective? And so the connection that I had mentioned to you earlier was that when we were going through those Choice Center trainings, we had to do a vision board. And right in the middle of my vision board was a big picture of the beach in Costa Rica.
So what year was that? Your Choice Center?
2000. That was 2000, end of 2007, beginning of 2008.
Okay, so from then on, so you've been pestering her since you guys basically went on your honeymoon,
right?
But are you saying it wasn't really until 2008 until you were like, I need to make this happen?
Well, we had talked about it, but we were already having babies. The babies came in, got pregnant in 2004, so the babies came in 2005 and 2006. So it just didn't seem like it was, made sense. I think the biggest catalyst for us actually making the transition was the huge financial collapse of 2008. I had owned a mortgage company that I lost. We had a ton of investment properties that we lost. And Felice she's a software executive. She's the only employee from her company that works from home. And she'd been working from home since 2002. And so when it came to the point that we actually lost our primary residence, we're like, hey, let's just make a transition and go to Costa Rica. The babies aren't in school yet. Let's just go down there for a year, just 1 year.
Yeah.
We've been 3 times now, so let's just go down for a year. And so, she was having a great year, by the way. And so we just pulled the trigger. We left Las Vegas with 10 suitcases and 2 children that were 2 and 4, or 3 and 4.
Wow. So
3 and 4.
So you guys turned something that was, really horrible for a lot of people. And it sounds like, you definitely had your own problems with the collapse, but you guys turned that into an amazing experience.
The most amazing experience. I mean, from everything that we'll discuss, about Costa Rica itself, to all the amazing people that I've met and that I'm still friends with. The expat community, when you go abroad, they suck you in. It's not like neighbors like in your local city where maybe you don't even know your neighbors. If you're an American in a different country, you flock together.
Wow, that is such a cool story. So I just don't understand. So you guys, lose everything. Well, not lose everything, but you lose a lot, right? Financially, you're probably worse off than you were before, but you still somehow make it.
So here's how it works. So we made it a business decision probably at the end of 2008 to literally let all these with them that we could, and we just knew that there was a process that there was going to take in order for primary residence to go away, and we knew about how long that took. So we just stopped paying everything. So when you stop paying everything, and Felice is having a great year, you accumulate a lot because you made that decision to stop paying. I mean, this podcast isn't about that, but it definitely we went to Costa Rica in a very healthy financial position, and the cost of living in Costa Rica is definitely not what it is in Las Vegas.
Right.
Even including the travel, which obviously the travel is an expense. But actually living in Costa Rica was pretty reasonable.
Okay. So we know the why. Why did you go? That you went. Your wife had a job during the time. It sounds like, she was able to support you. You said, I think you mentioned that you ended up finding work. Was it necessary? Or were you just kind of looking for something to do?
Well, so when we first got there, obviously we didn't have any childcare support.
Yeah.
So, she's having to be on the phone doing demos and conference calls and whatnot. So pretty much it was my responsibility to entertain the kids from the time they got up until she was done working. So I couldn't really even have a job if I wanted to, but I didn't really want to either. I just left the mortgage company and all that collapsed. So I was happy to take a break. I didn't even have a cell phone for the first 9 months we were there.
Wow.
I didn't even want one.
No.
We would get up in the morning, and after we had breakfast, we lived a quarter mile from the ocean, up on the hill. And so we would, it was a big hill too. So we would take the SUV down to the beach, and we would just go play on the beach for hours, then go back home and have lunch. And then maybe we'd swim in the pool, and then they would take naps, and then we would go down and watch the sunset on the beach.
And by they would take naps, you mean like you would take a nap, right?
The kiddos.
You never did.
I took naps for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I would take naps.
Yeah, no, I still take naps.
So that sounds great. And so you mentioned that you guys went on a tourist visa, though. So you had to leave every 90 days and come back.
Correct. That's pretty standard in Central America, almost every country that I know of. And I think that's even pretty close in Europe, too, is these 90-day tourist visas. So you don't have to leave the country for very long. Like literally, you can go across the border and get a stamp and come right back across the border. But we would make a weekend out of it. So there's a beach community in Nicaragua called San Juan del Sur. And it's about a 90-minute drive from where we were at in Guanacaste. And so we would just drive up there, cross the border, go to the beach, stay a night or two in an Airbnb or hotel, and then we'd come back. Fresh 90 days.
So what I've read online, my husband and I are planning on moving to Spain, and from what I've read online, we can do 90 days, tourist visa come in, but they only allow you or say that you can live there for 6 months out of the 12 months. Was that supposed to be the same in Costa Rica, or do they not have those kind of?
No, they I think they use it as a monetary gain, in all honesty. I mean, Costa Rica is a very tourist destination, but they charge you it's like $100 or something when you exit Costa Rica. It's a significant expense from a Costa Rican dollar perspective.
Gotcha.
I just want to mention real quick. Sorry. So I have a friend that I swam with who was an Olympian who went to Spain with her family for a year.
Yeah.
And she had to go through the process of getting whatever they needed to be able to stay there for a year. I can try to connect you with her in a different podcast, if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be great. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all. No, that's wonderful. I'll take all the help that I can get, and I know that these the listeners will be interested to hear that as well. So you weren't ever worried that after 90 days they might be like, nope, you can't come back into the country, forget your stuff, go back home. I'm never worried about that.
The rules are so different in Costa Rica. Like, so police can't pull you over. Like, they can't do a traffic stop. They do what's called they'll do a blockade that you have to come through, and they'll ask you questions. But if like you're speeding or if you're drunk driving or they never turn on their lights to pull you over. They can only pull you over at a traffic stop.
I've never heard that before.
Yes, and there's just not very many. I mean, it's such an amazing country from the perspective of the familiar relationships. I mean, you never see people like poor people on the street begging for money.
Mm-hmm.
You never see, people, it's just, you know that they probably don't have a lot of money, but you never think that they're poor because everybody's just taken care of.
Yeah, wow.
Which is completely different than Nicaragua. Nicaragua, you literally see kids sleeping in boxes underneath porches or stoops on the street. Completely different kind of a country.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Yeah, I did visit Costa Rica a couple years back and noticed the kind of the same thing. You're like, wow, why, how are these countries living so close but yet so different?
Right.
Yeah. So I want to know more about your experience in Costa Rica, and I'm sure other people do as well. What did you love so much about it, and were you still loving it after the 20 months of being there?
To answer the last question first, yes. Our plan, we've been back 3 times since 2011 when we came back. And our plan is once the kids are off, settled in college or after college, and they're kind of like settled in their lives. Our plan is to spend at least probably 6 months of the year in Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. We don't know where our other home base would be. Potentially Vegas again, potentially Key West, potentially staying in Austin. We just don't know. But we love Costa Rica, and we definitely see ourselves in Costa Rica, in our retirement years. What we loved about it the most, I think, are the beaches. We tried surfing a few times, wakeboarding a few times, but we just love to go to the beaches, end up watching the sunset. The kids love to boogie board. And so we went to probably, 20 or 30 different beaches. And that was our Saturday and Sunday every weekend, was different beaches. And those friends I mentioned to you who they live in Maine, Heather and Steve Burnham, they had 3 kids that are the same age as our kids. Mm-hmm. And he's a chief engineer in an oil rig off the coast of Spain, actually. So he's a big boating guy. So they had bought a 40-foot fishing boat, and we befriended them. And so we would do a lot of like beach hopping where you couldn't drive to beaches. I mean, we saw beaches that were just amazing. So I don't know if you looked through those Facebook photos, but there's some pretty cool photos of some different beaches. And actually that boat that I was talking about, the Hey Buddy, was in those photos.
Okay. No, I didn't go through those, but I do plan on looking through them. Are you there?
And then there's just, there's so much interior too. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There's so much interior too, not just the beaches, but we went to a lot of amazing waterfalls, obviously the volcanoes, zip lining, butterfly farms, monkey farms. I mean, every weekend was an adventure.
What did you think about the food? Was it any different than what you're used to?
Yes, much blander. But I feel like, they keep their eggs on the shelf because they're all organic, so you don't need to refrigerate eggs unless they go through, the system that we have in the US where they pasteurize them or whatever they do to them. But yeah, eggs just sit on the shelf, which is the weirdest thing when I first saw that. But I found, there's, from a digestive perspective, again, I was 40 then, I'm 50 now, or I'll be 50. When I eat too much gluten in the US, I find that I don't, the stomach doesn't feel that great. No matter what you eat in Costa Rica, everything feels normal. Like you feel like, man, I feel like I'm getting nutrition.
Okay. Just a little bit blander.
A little bit less flavor. A lot of pizza places. I don't know if all those Italians like to go to Costa Rica. A ton of places that make pizza.
All right.
From a restaurant perspective.
Was there anything that you didn't like about Costa Rica?
Well, the no-see-ums are bad. Which are
the no what?
No-see-ums. They're like mosquitoes, but they're smaller, and they come from the sand at the beach, and
Okay.
they bite around your ankles, and so it literally is like they're like little mini mosquito bites or flea bites or whatever. They're crazy, and so it's only a part of the year, more during the wet season. Um, trying to think of anything I didn't like. I mean, I remember every time we flew back from, either coming back to Vegas to see my parents or whatnot, just landing and being like, I'm not here for a week. I live here.
Right.
The
Right.
vacation's
Just
not going to
amazed.
end.
Just
The vacation's not going to end. This is
Uh-huh.
amazing. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't hardly think of anything I didn't like. Having
Just
to
the
move.
no-see-ums.
Yeah. So back to your other question though about work though. So after about 9 months, I was like, okay, I can't really be drinking beer at noon every day. So I got to do something. So we moved further south to Playa Flamingo, and the kids started going to a country day school, which is an American taught school that teaches K through 12. And they have an amazing graduation rate and college acceptance rate. But anyways, so they had a 20-meter pool, a 5-lane 20-meter pool, and I swam at Arizona State. You probably remember, maybe. So I've got a big swimming background, and I went to the 92 and 96 Olympic trials. So I decided, I'm going to start a swim program for the kids, and then it ended up also being a master's program for the parents after drop off. And so for the last 10, 11 months we were there, I created this business out of thin air that was, making me $3,000 or $4,000 a month, which is a ton of money in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And I think we'd still be there today had there not been a specific event that brought us back. Felice's software company, the boutique software company, got purchased by a very large company. And, her territory was Texas. Or no, it was West Coast. Sorry, the West Coast. So she's like, well, we can't really stay here. They're not going to let me stay here. So we got to go back. I'm like, really? I don't think we need to go back until they tell us to go back. But no, we ended up coming back. We got back to where school started. So.
And so now thinking about it, do you feel like, yes, you had to come back? They would have really wanted her back, or do you think you could have stayed there?
I don't know. Nobody else in her company does that. It might be a little progressive, but I will say that once the kids are gone, she's been with this company for since 97, 23 years. Because they just carried over her tenure from the company they bought. So, I think that when the kids are actually gone, especially if this Zoom meeting, no flying quarantine thing is a proven concept and still lets people close deals, close business. I'm wondering if she would be able to say, well, listen, I close business from anywhere. I mean, why do I need to be in Austin? All my clients are on the West Coast. Why can't I be in Costa Rica? So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. So this, again, another event that can be seen as bad could actually be something good for you guys. Who knows?
Right.
So did you guys need to know Spanish while you guys were there?
Felice's dad is actually from Guadalajara, so she knew a little bit of Spanish. I learned Spanish much better before we left than when I got there. First bar we would go to, the waitresses, who all spoke English too, but I would always ask for the check in Spanish, and I would always say El Checo, and they're like, dude, you've been here for like 9 months. It's la cuenta. Figure it out. And so I forced myself to, figure out how to ask for the check. But yeah, I mean, I would say I'm really good at restaurant Spanish, grocery store Spanish, and gas station Spanish. The things that you need to get by. And I can think about a phrase to say to you and say it perfectly. And then as soon as you speak back to me, you're probably going to come rapidly. And I'm going to be like, no. Despacio, por favor. Despacio. And then I just start speaking English again. So, no, you don't need to know Spanish.
Okay.
I think it's good if you do.
But yeah, if you do, people will respond well, or will they just speak to you in English knowing that you speak English better?
So I had a friend of mine who's a real estate agent from Denver who speaks really amazing Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me something that's unique. So however you first address somebody in whatever language you address them in, when you first meet them, they'll
Mm-hmm.
always respond to you in that language. So if you know
Gotcha.
Spanish and you speak to somebody that speaks Spanish, even though they know you know English and they know English in Spanish, they're always going to talk to you in Spanish.
Okay.
And I found
Good
that to be
for
pretty
me to
true.
know.
Yeah, I found that
Yeah.
to be pretty true.
Yeah, I'm definitely a lover of languages. And so I tend to not like to go to places where they speak a lot of English because I like to practice my language. So if they're going to talk to me in English, well, even though I want the struggle, I want the struggle, I want to mess up and get better. If they speak to me in English, I'm already like, boo, I don't like this place.
Well, and so Mexican Spanish and Costa Rica Spanish, you probably know, are completely, there's a lot of different dialects. I mean, there's a lot of different nuances that are different. And I hear
Yeah.
Spain, I've not been to Spain, but I hear Spain Spanish is like very proper. It's like English.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know because I'm not a native Spanish speaker, so I don't know how it sounds to a Spanish speaker ear about I mean, I know the difference, but I don't know, I don't know what like a country accent for a Spanish speaker sounds like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, that sounds different.
Well, here's the comparison that we use. So when you go to to New Mexico or Mexico, they say "con mucho gusto"
Uh,
or something like that. Where in Costa Rica they just say "pura vida," right? They
sure.
would never say "con mucho gusto" in Costa Rica.
No.
Never, right? So
No.
it's not that the language is different. It's just how they speak about different things is widely different.
Oh yeah, like Costa Ricans are the hippie Mexicans.
I love that term. That's awesome. That's awesome, Natasha.
Yeah. Um, so what would you say to somebody that wants to move to Costa Rica, whether they have kids or they don't have kids? What would you say the first thing that they should do is?
So if you have revenue and you don't have to work, that's awesome. But what I would say, and this goes back to our honeymoon days, so 2002, we were at this really cool little bar run by this American woman in Capos, which is by Manuel Antonio, and they were living there. These expats were living there, and they're like, how did you find a job, or what did you do? And he goes, just look around at what people are doing or what people are not doing, and go, what is needed here? Like, what could be a thing that people need here?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't restrict you from working, to my
No?
knowledge. Yeah, you don't even need a real estate license to sell real estate.
Huh. And
So,
so like did you have to pay taxes or like worry about getting an LLC or anything while you were there?
oh man, that's a bummer.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So did you have to get an LLC or worry about taxes or anything like that while you were there?
Nothing.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, I'm not saying that that's probably. I'm not saying if you're going to move there for a significant period of time, that it might be a good idea to do a little bit more research on that. And I did some research on getting like our they call it a resident card or whatever. You have to be a part of their healthcare program, and it's not even expensive necessarily. But the easiest way to do that is to excuse me, either to invest in real estate. I think it's like $200,000 or $250,000 was the minimum real estate investment. Or the second way to get that done was if you were retired and you had your Social Security automatically deposited or directly deposited into their banking system.
Mm-hmm.
It's super easy to get a resident visa. That doesn't mean
Okay.
you're a citizen. It means you have a resident visa, which you don't have to leave.
Gotcha. So when I'm rich at 30, I can have a retirement account and have it go in there and be a resident.
Are you still not 30?
No, I'm not 30.
Totally teasing you. Totally
Well,
teasing.
I at least you didn't say, are you even 20? Because I get that too.
I know.
Okay, so just look around. You think just be an entrepreneur, you know,
Correct.
look and find something that's needed and you can make money.
Absolutely. So how my whole swimming thing started, not just because I had a swimming background, but so I was swimming with a friend that was a triathlete, and I was just helping her with her swimming because most triathletes are really good at biking and running and are not that good at swimming. Just works out that way. But anyway, so I was helping her with her stroke, and she's like, "Oh my God, will you teach my kids?" And so I started teaching, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 kids, and they were freaking loving it. I'm like, "Oh, this is amazing." And then it turned out that, you know, I was looking for a pool in the area and there just wasn't one. And then I found the pool at the school, and that's when I decided, well, I didn't decide. The people we were leasing our house from, which was amazing, by the way, they decided they didn't want to do long-term rental anymore because they wanted to be able to visit Costa Rica. So we knew we had to move. So I went looking for a pool. I was seeking out investors to build me a 50-meter pool. Because if I knew if I had a 50-meter pool, I could literally bring down Olympic teams.
Right.
I mean, I know so many Olympians from my era. It's crazy.
Wow, that would be really cool. Do you think that's still something that you might do or think about doing?
I think it will be, yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so I still have the page set up. It was Costa Rica Dreams Swim Camp on Facebook.
Nice. You're keeping it for the next time you guys go there.
It's just archived. I mean, it's still there and you can find it, but yeah.
So let's talk about the logistics of living. As far as cost of living, what does that look like?
So we rented,
I'm sure that it can vary, obviously, depending on
widely,
you know how fancy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we went more fancy but cheaper on the front side. So we rented a 4-bedroom, 4-bath house, again, quarter mile from the ocean, up on a cliff in Ocotal.
Wow.
And it was $2,000 a month. Mm-hmm. It had a pool in front of the house, which kind of looks like the back of the house, but it's the front of the house, staring down at the bay, Papagayo Bay, and it was $2,000 a month.
Easily $1 million house in the U.S.
Oh yeah,
easily multi-millions.
It was a $7 million house there. I mean, if that house was in California, it'd be worth 4,000 square feet. I don't know, it'd be worth a couple million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million.
Yeah.
And so the cheapest thing in Costa Rica is like help or care, right? So to have a housekeeper, it's like $20 a day.
Wow. So you guys had a housekeeper too?
We did, yes.
That's the way to live, man. I want a housekeeper so bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, we pay our housekeeper now $120 a week just to come for one day on Fridays. So it's like, so that's a very inexpensive. I know. You could if you wanted to. You just choose not to.
Yeah, no. But I mean, I plan on living abroad and hopefully having cheaper help.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Gas, relatively the same price, I would say. I'd say food, relatively the same price. I say alcohol is about the same price it is in the store, but it's the same price in the store as it is in the bars. It's like a bottle of beer is $1 and a bottle of beer at the bar is $1. It's like really weird.
Okay.
What else? You know, travel's gotten actually pretty inexpensive. We were going to go this summer, but of course with the pandemic, we decided not to. But I mean, flights to Costa Rica back when we were coming back and forth, it was about $700 or $800 a ticket. And now if you have flexible travel, you can get back and forth for like $400. Mm-hmm. So it's not crazy like it was.
Well, it doesn't sound like Costa Rica is that much cheaper living than the U.S. from what I'm hearing. So
the second house we lived in, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, still had a pool, was $900 a month.
Okay.
And it was a half mile from the beach, but it was on flat land, so we couldn't see the ocean.
Okay.
And that was Playa Flamingo. So yeah, I mean, listen, you could probably, if you were a couple that didn't have kids, you could easily find a place to live that was $400 or $500 a month.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds nice. Yeah. So it's
very close to the beach.
A bit cheaper, but it's not. This isn't the kind of place like like Thailand or China, or it's definitely not like third world developing super 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 cheap. If you are on a tight budget, maybe this isn't necessarily the place you want to start off with. Maybe when you have just a little bit more money, that maybe Costa Rica is maybe
I think
a step
Costa Rica.
above that.
I think Costa Rica is probably the Rolls Royce of Central and South America, as
Yeah.
far as cost perspective.
Okay. So the other places that you visited were a lot cheaper, like Nicaragua.
Nicaragua, way cheaper. Panama, at least probably 20% cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
I've not been to Belize, but I've heard Belize is pretty more on the inexpensive side.
Mm-hmm.
That's next on my list. Belize.
Yeah. I've never been there. I got invited to go there, but saving up for the big dream.
Nice.
Move abroad.
Dude, Spain, I hear, is amazing. I mean, I think you'll love it. So when is that plan?
We visited Spain this summer, and we decided that come January 1st, we plan to go to the Philippines for 3 months because my husband is half Filipino, so we want to go spend time there and then go to Spain for a year after the 3 months of Philippines.
Wow.
So that's a plan. Yeah, I got to get my passport renewed and then buy the tickets. Sometimes you just got to make the decision, right? And then you'll figure out the rest.
Dude, we seriously pulled the trigger. We went to Costa Rica about 60 days before we actually moved and looked at 10 different houses.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decided on this house. And once we pulled the trigger on the house, the ball just started growing downhill. I mean, and it went fast. And I mean, when you leave a country with 10 bags, 2 kids, and 4 passports, it's nuts. We did buy a car right when we got there. Oh, I did want to mention that. So, owning a vehicle isn't like owning a vehicle in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because there's not really any need for car insurance there. I don't even know if you can get car insurance there, but so you buy a vehicle in a corporation's name. So yes, I did have an LLC.
Uh-huh.
I didn't set it up because it's like you buy the LLC that owns the car.
I don't understand why. What's the difference? Why do they do that way?
So that if you ever get in an accident, hurt somebody, whatever happens, that you can't be held liable. Only the corporation can be held liable, and the only asset the corporation has is the vehicle you were driving. So
your car's gone, and the other people might be out of their car. It's just an unfortunate event.
Yes, and it is. But I do want to mention that because we were able to buy and sell our vehicles, and they retain their value very well. So we bought I think it was like a 2006 Nissan Pathfinder. I bought it for $17,000 when we got there, and then 20 months later, I sold it for $16,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not typical with cars in the States, right? You don't typically buy something and sell it for almost the same price that you bought it for 2 years later.
Yeah. I guess I don't really know too much about cars, so I'll leave it to you to be the expert on that one.
Well, so here's an example. So if you were to bring a car to Costa Rica from the States, the country, in order to allow you to import that car into the States or into Costa Rica, they would charge you a 50% tax on the value that they deem that car is worth.
Wow.
And you have to pay that before the car can get into the country.
No way. That's not worth it.
So that's why people these cars that are older, they just buy a corporation that owns a car, and then they sell the corporation when they leave.
There you go, guys. If you wanted to get a car while you are in Costa Rica, now you know how to do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Keith Dennison is our professional. So we've talked about logistics. I guess, do you feel like we're missing anything? Any part of the Costa Rican experience that we're missing for the audience?
just definitely get out there, do all the sports things. The ocean is your friend. It's your life. It's everything. I mean, we deep sea fished, we scuba dived, we beach hopped. I mean, everything that we did was lived in life by the ocean. I mean, the ocean was everything. So I
So
definitely
if you
think
don't like the ocean, don't go.
well, don't go to that part of Costa Rica. I mean, again, Costa Rica has 7 ecosystems.
Okay.
So you can be like near San Jose, which is the capital. It's more like it's not tropical. It's more like rainforesty, but like cold rainforesty. You know what I mean? And there's great river rafting on the east side of Costa Rica. We did that for our honeymoon in '02. Awesome waterfalls. So Guanacaste again is that Pacific Northwest province. So they run dry season from pretty much Thanksgiving to Mother's Day, and then over the summer it starts creeping into the rainy season. And by August, September, October, it's really a poor time to go to Guanacaste. But it's beautiful in San Jose at that time. It's just it's just it's just an interesting country.
And it's crazy that you say that, and that there are so many ecosystems, because Costa Rica is pretty small. I think I took a bus from like the bottom of Costa Rica to the top of Costa Rica, and it was like, I don't know, 10 hours or something like that. It was just like, it's just a very, like, within that tiny amount of country, you just can experience so much.
Right. And from east to west is big too. If you came from Panama to Nicaragua, is that the way you went?
No, I don't know. No, just like yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I just remember the bottom, like look from the bottom to the top, I guess.
Yeah. So that's north to south, or south to north.
No, north.
Yeah. But so there's almost like a continental divide in the middle of Costa Rica, which is a pretty big mountain range where all the volcanoes are. So then you have, the Pacific side is a little bit more, what's the word? It's a little bit more developed. And then the Atlantic side is a little bit more like Jamaica, Rastafarian, kind of like really off the grid kind of thing.
I've heard that. I didn't make it over to the Atlantic side. I would love to go back to Costa Rica sometime and experience that. Did you guys end up going?
We went for our honeymoon, and we did a rafting trip on that side, but we never got to any of the towns on the coast.
Sounds like you had plenty of things to do while you guys were where you were. Yeah. Great. Well, Keith, I just want to shout out Keith for being here on the interview. And I always like to plug my interviewers or my interviewees and support their businesses. If you guys enjoyed what Keith had to say, you thought it was valuable, this is where you can find Keith. Keith, you have a couple businesses, right?
I do. My main business is transportation. I do a lot of bachelor and bachelorette parties here in Austin, Texas. I've got a 12-passenger Sprinter van. I've got a 2020 Cadillac Escalade. So I do a lot of black car service. And you can find me at Transportation Star. Just Google it. And then I'm also in the liquor business. And our CEO's grandmother was a bootlegger in Iowa in the 1930s. And we have 2 labels. We have the Iowa Legendary Rye label, and we have the Sextro label, SEXTRO, because that was Lorraine Sextro's last name. And there's going to be some big media coming out about that Sextro Rye label over the next 30 days. So look for those fun ad campaigns.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Keith, for being on the show with us. I'm so excited to re-listen to this and pick up all the things that you've said and just go over it again. Thank you so much again for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.